We are 20 days away from the U.S. election, and Donald Trump and Kamala Harris are making their pitches to sway voters in key swing states. Our Angie Seth has been tracking the two candidates today and joins us once again. So Kamala Harris was on Fox News.
Yes. She was on Fox News. Now, this is very unique. We haven't seen a Democrat do this, let alone a presidential candidate do this. So putting herself in the hot seat. And I would say in some respects, watching this interview, he kind of came out guns blazing, really focusing on immigration. What's your stance on immigration and securing the border? We talked about the economy, of course. He even talked about and asked Kamala Harris about Joe Biden, the President Joe Biden's mental state, and when she thought that he was, quote, losing it, if you will, or noticed a difference here. Then into sort of what her stance is going to be as president. What would she say from that respect? I want to run a clip here in terms of this is really interesting when you listen to what she says here, Travis, in terms of what her leadership is going to mean. Take a listen here.
So, you're not Joe Biden, you're not Donald Trump, but nothing comes to mind that you would do differently?
Let me be very clear. My presidency will not be a continuation of Joe Biden's presidency. And like every new president that comes into office, I will bring my life experiences, my professional experiences, and fresh and new ideas. I represent a new generation of leadership.
So a new generation of leadership.
Very different answer than The View.
Very much so. And we haven't heard Kamala Harris say stepping away from Joe Biden.
Right.
She stepped away from Joe Biden there and is separating herself and saying, I'm on the ballot and Donald Trump is on the ballot. Joe Biden is not on the ballot. Things got a little bit more heated, especially when they started pushing on Donald Trump's rhetoric. And Fox News came back and said, well, according to the polls that they're running and following, he's leading in all the swing states, and ran a clip with regards to the issue with regards to the enemy within. That's sort of been a bit of the narrative that's been running over the course of the day. Sent a clip. She pushed back on all of that. Take a listen to what she says here in terms of what we've really been hearing from Donald Trump. Take a listen.
He has talked about turning the American military on the American people. He has talked about going after people who are engaged in peaceful protest. He has talked about locking people up because they disagree with him. This is a democracy. And in a democracy, the President of the United States, in the United States of America, should be willing to be able to handle criticism without saying he'd lock people up for doing it.
Okay.
You see, fiery.
Yeah.
She referred to him as unhinged. She referred to him as being dangerous to America, especially around that comment that he's made about the enemy within, which she's talking about Democrats, but she's saying that is not the way to lead. And what's interesting about this, not only the interview that she's done with Fox News, but where she was today in Pennsylvania, in Bucks County, at a rally where there were primarily Republican voters. Over 100 Republican leaders were at that rally who have now, in many ways, they're saying they've switched and are supporting Kamala Harris. So she's really trying to put her hand across the aisle, if you will, versus, and she's, this slogan, I think, that will sort of now really get a little bit more traction here, country before party. She says this is what this election needs to be about. It needs to be about Americans and not one party versus the other, even promising to have a Republican in her cabinet.
Absolutely. Campaigning with Liz Cheney, getting endorsed by Dick Cheney. So, yeah, reaching across the aisle indeed. Okay, let's talk about the other candidate, and that is Donald Trump.
Donald Trump, yes.
What's the latest on that front in the Republican front?
I want to show you really quickly the numbers in Pennsylvania as well, just to give you a sense of how tight that swing state is. So there you go. I mean, a very, very, very tight margin between these two candidates.
Incredible.
So what she's doing and what he's going to be doing in this state is going to be very, very critical. Shifting over to what Donald Trump has been doing today, we know that, speaking of Fox News, there was a town hall, a pre-taped town hall that was in Georgia, conducted, only women in attendance. So based on that female vote, he's trying to sort of shorten that gender gap and relate to the female voter. We know Kamala Harris is trying to relate to the male voter, to black men as well. So Donald Trump was talking about, issues, being asked questions, and he was asked a question about IVF. So take a listen to what he had to say here.
And IVF, you had mentioned before IVF.
Let's get this question because I believe that's what this is about.
Oh, I want to talk about IVF. I'm the father.
You don't
I'm the
hear that
father
every
of
day.
I'm the father of IVF, so I want to hear this question.
I'm the
He's
father.
the father of IVF.
I'm the father of IVF, and I want to hear this question. So just to continue what he says here, he says, we are the party of IVF. We want fertilization, and it's all the way, and the Democrats tried to attack us on it. We're out there on IVF, even more than them, so we're totally in favor. Very contentious issue with regards to women. If you bring in the issue around abortion and what Donald Trump has said, we heard in the debate what his stance was on abortion. He's kind of jogged back and forth with regards to abortion. So pundits are saying that this could be a defining issue in the election, along with immigration, of course, the economy, crime, et cetera. So he's going to continue rallying in Florida. That was in Georgia, but he is in Florida today, working with the Hispanic vote among sort of the undecided. But when we look overall, again, you just saw what those numbers are like. I want to show the numbers in Florida. So he's got a strong base here.
Okay. Yeah.
And you know, Kamala may focus on Florida, but not so much. It's really Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, some of those really hardcore swing states that's really going to make a difference here. Even if she can swing over a few hundred voters, could make the difference. Donald Trump is going to be doing the same thing and heading to Pennsylvania over the course of his campaign as well. But what we're going to be looking at, and sort of that conversation I had yesterday, this is going to be a very tight race, a very slim margin right up until voting day. And then we'll see what happens around Election Day, which Donald Trump has had some interesting comments about that as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's going to be so interesting to see. And it's, we're talking today about how Florida used to be one of those swing states. It's now looks like it's pretty red, but that's why you see these candidates focusing in these states. And it's so incredible how the polls are still so close.
It's going to be about strategy, and it's really looking at sort of the undecided and the unimpressed, and being able to tap into those voters and say, hey, this is the party that you need to stick with, because we're gonna have your back. Okay. We'll see where it goes.
Looking forward to seeing what happens tomorrow. Angie Seth for us here in studio. Thanks, Angie.